They used
In
the first
King.
one
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they didn't want to be seen.
Under the blinding stadium lights, a man in gold chains and sunglasses steps onto the field, not just to play, but to perform. They call him Primetime, a legend who didn't just master one sport, but two, ruling both the NFL and MLB like a storm that refused to stop. Deion Sanders was speed, swagger, and spectacle, a man who turned confidence into an art form and the game into theater. He didn't just want to win, he wanted the world to watch him do it. But behind the diamonds and the highlight reels was a boy from Fort Myers, Florida, raised in struggle, driven by fear of returning to it. How did that boy become the only athlete to play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series? And what happens when Primetime takes off the mask and faces the silence that fame can't fill? This is the story of Deion Sanders, the man who lived life at full speed and learned what it truly means to slow down. Deion Lewin Sanders was born on August 9, 1967 in Fort Myers, Florida, a small town heavy with heat, poverty, and dreams too big to fit its streets. His mother, Connie, worked multiple jobs to keep the lights on. His father, Mims, struggled with addiction and disappeared from Deion's life far too early. The young boy learned fast that the world doesn't wait for anyone. You either run or you get run over. On cracked asphalt and sunburned fields, Deion ran. He wasn't just fast, he was fearless. At North Fort Myers High School, he became the spark of every game he touched, the kid whose grin said he already knew he'd make it out. But it wasn't easy. Friends were lost to gangs. Nights were spent listening to sirens instead of lullabies. He made a promise to himself. If I ever get out, I'll never go back. It wasn't about fame then. It was survival. Every sprint, every interception, every home run was another mile away from the pain he was born into. And long before the world knew Primetime, there was just Deion, a skinny kid from Florida, chasing the only thing he believed could save him: speed. At Florida State University, Deion Sanders didn't just join the team. He changed the atmosphere. Every time he stepped on the field, stadiums felt electric, as if the air itself knew something was about to happen. He was a cornerback who made interceptions look like choreography, and a baseball outfielder who turned routine catches into highlight reels. But behind the flash was obsession. Endless hours of training, studying film and pushing his body beyond exhaustion. Coaches called him gifted. Teammates called him wild. Deion called himself Prime Time. It wasn't arrogance, it was armor, a persona built to survive in a world that doubted him. Then came 1989. The Atlanta Falcons called his name in the NFL draft. The same year the New York Yankees picked him for Major League Baseball. Two dreams, one man, one impossible choice. Deion refused to choose. He became the rarest of athletes, playing football on Sunday and baseball on Monday, rewriting what was possible for the human body. Reporters laughed at his confidence. Fans loved his flair. He wore gold chains under his uniform and ran touchdowns like they were runway walks. And just like that, the kid from Fort Myers wasn't running from poverty anymore. He was running into history. By the early 1990s, Deion Sanders had become more than an athlete. He was a phenomenon. When he took the field, cameras followed not just for the plays, but for the spectacle. He didn't walk, he glided. He didn't score, he celebrated like he owned the moment. Every touchdown was theater. Every stolen base was a statement. In the NFL, he was a nightmare for quarterbacks. The cornerback no one dared to throw at. With the Falcons, then the 49ers, and later the Cowboys, Sanders became a two-time Super Bowl champion. On the baseball diamond, he made the impossible real, hitting home runs, stealing bases, and even playing in the World Series. No one had ever dominated both worlds like this before. But what truly made him Primetime wasn't just performance. It was presence. He was a walking brand before branding existed. Designer suits, custom jewelry, and a charisma so loud it filled stadiums. He appeared in commercials, rap videos, and talk shows, blurring the line between athlete and entertainer. Some called him arrogant. Others called him a genius. But everyone watched. Deion Sanders had become a mirror for America in the 90s. Bold, unapologetic, and addicted to success. He had everything: money, fame, power. But at the top of the world, the lights burn the brightest. And sometimes they blind. At the height of fame, Deion Sanders had everything he'd ever dreamed of: mansions, cars, cameras, and applause that seemed endless. But when the lights faded, he was left with silence. Behind the sunglasses and gold chains was a man unraveling. The media called him selfish, arrogant, a diva in cleats. They mocked his confidence, twisted his words, and painted him as the villain of his own story. And while the world saw a superstar dancing in the end zone, Deion was fighting battles no one else could see. His marriage fell apart. He lost friends, purpose, and peace. The man who once played two sports at once couldn't even play the game of life without breaking down. In his autobiography, he admitted, "I had money, fame, cars, women, but I was empty. I wanted to die." It was a confession that stunned the world. How could Prime Time, the man who embodied confidence, be drowning in despair? He drove his car off a cliff one night and survived. And in that wreckage, he found something he'd been running from all along: faith. He began reading the Bible, searching for a reason to live beyond the cheers. The world had watched Deion Sanders win every game that mattered. Now, for the first time, he was trying to win back himself. Out of the wreckage came a new man. The same confidence that once fueled Prime Time now served a different purpose. Not to shine for himself, but to light the way for others. Deion Sanders found faith, and with it, clarity. He began speaking in churches, mentoring young athletes, and using his story to teach a lesson few could deliver: that fame without faith is a hollow victory. But he wasn't done with football. He returned, not as a player, but as Coach Prime. At Jackson State University, a historically black college often overlooked by the national spotlight, Deion turned the program into a movement. He preached discipline, swagger, and self-worth. His players didn't just learn to win games. They learned to believe they were worthy of greatness. His energy was contagious, his words sharp as ever. "Don't let my confidence offend your insecurity," he told reporters, smiling like the Prime Time of old. Except this time, the spotlight wasn't just on him. It was on everyone he lifted. When he later joined the University of Colorado, the country watched again. But now, for a different reason. Deion Sanders had evolved from a headline into a leader, from a showman into a shepherd. He was no longer chasing the roar of the crowd. He was building something that would echo long after it fades. Today, Deion Sanders is more than a name. He's a symbol. A reminder that greatness isn't just measured in rings or records, but in the courage to start over. From the streets of Fort Myers to the lights of the Super Bowl, from fame's dizzying heights to the quiet strength of leadership, his story is the full circle of a man who refused to stay broken. He didn't just redefine sports, he redefined what it means to believe. In yourself, in your purpose, in something greater than the game. When people look at Coach Prime now, they don't just see a legend. They see proof that faith can rebuild what fame once destroyed. Because in the end, Deion Sanders' greatest victory wasn't caught on camera. It was the moment he chose life, love, and legacy over applause. The journey of Deion Sanders is living proof that talent opens doors, but character keeps them open. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because some stories deserve to be remembered.